The winter paradox. The modern observer views Christmas through a lens of soft light, consumerist warmth, and familial goodwill. However, beneath the veneer of tinsel and pine lies a history rooted in the darkest nights of the year. A season once defined by fear, social upheaval, and the terrifying realities of the winter solstice. To understand the true history of Christmas is to understand a holiday that was once so rowdy it was banned by law, and so pagan that it required a centuries-long rebranding campaign by the Church. The hunger of the solstice, ancient roots. Before the Christ Mass existed, there was the winter solstice. For ancient peoples, December was not a time of joy, but a time of survival. In northern Europe, the Germanic and Scandinavian tribes celebrated Yule, Jule. This was a dark time when the wild hunt, a ghostly procession of the dead led by the god Odin, was said to fly across the sky. To appease these spirits and ensure the return of the sun, cattle were slaughtered, as they could not be fed through the winter, and massive logs were burned. This wasn't a celebration of life. It was a desperate ritual to ward off the cold, and the supernatural Draugr that stalked the frozen woods. In Rome, the festival was Saturnalia, dedicated to Saturn, the god of agriculture. This week-long event in late December was characterized by misrule. Social hierarchies were flipped. Masters served slaves at the dinner table, and a lord of misrule was chosen from among the lowliest to preside over a week of public intoxication and lawlessness. This was the Dark Christmas, a pressure valve for a rigid society that allowed the poor to mock the powerful. The Great Erasure, how December 25th was chosen. One of the darkest ironies of Christmas is that the date has no biblical basis. Early Christians did not celebrate birthdays, which they considered a pagan vanity. It wasn't until the 4th century that Pope Julius IV settled on December 25th. This was a strategic move of cultural colonization. By placing the birth of Christ on the same day as the Natalis Invicti, the Church aimed to swallow the pagan festivities whole. They didn't stop the drinking or the feasting. They simply changed the name of the guest of honor, the Puritans and the War on Christmas. By the 17th century, the misrule of Christmas had become so violent and debauched that it drew the ire of the Puritans. In England, Oliver Cromwell's government actually banned Christmas in 1644. To the Puritans, Christmas was a popish, Catholic invention that encouraged lewdness and idleness. In the American colonies, specifically Massachusetts, anyone caught celebrating Christmas was fined 5 shillings. This era represents a dark, blank spot in the holiday's history, where the celebration was driven underground, viewed as a criminal act of rebellion against the state. Krampus and the folklore of fear. While the modern world has Santa Claus, the alpine regions of Europe retained a much darker figure, Krampus. If St. Nicholas was the good cop who rewarded the obedient, Krampus was the bad cop who punished the wicked. Described as a half-goat, half-demon beast with chains and a bundle of birch sticks, Krampus wouldn't just give you coal. He would whip children and carry them away in a sack to be eaten. This reflects a dark pedagogical history, using supernatural terror to enforce social order during the winter months. The Victorian invention, manufacturing sentiment. The Christmas we recognize today was largely invented in the 1840s. As the Industrial Revolution pulled people from farms into soot-choked cities, the old rowdy Christmas was seen as a threat to productivity. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, 1843, served as a manual for this new, safe holiday. He moved the festival from the tavern to the parlor. Simultaneously, Prince Albert introduced the Christmas tree, a Germanic pagan symbol, to the British public. This was the birth of consumerist Christmas. The darkness of the street was replaced by the artificial light of the shop window, turning a spiritual or social ritual into a commercial necessity. The 1914 Truce, a light in the dark. Perhaps the most haunting story in Christmas history is the 1914 Christmas Truce, which we discussed earlier. It serves as the ultimate dark history because of how it ended. The fact that men could sing carols together one night and bayonet each other the next morning reveals the terrifying power of nationalism and authority to override human connection. Conclusion: the lingering ghost. The dark history of Christmas reminds us that the holiday is a patchwork of human history, a blend of fear of the dark, the desire for social rebellion, and the modern pressure of commercialism. When we feel that holiday dread today, we are often tapping into thousands of years of ancestral memory. The feeling of the wild hunt outside the door, the pressure to perform misrule, and the silent struggle to survive the longest night of the year. Christmas is not a static event. It is a living entity that has survived by evolving from a pagan sacrifice to a corporate giant.